Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Welcome to Pandora's box, everybody. We got a guest in the studio today, Deborah Rose. Deborah is a singer-songwriter and has just done a little live lounge with us, actually, a little acoustic set in the other room, which we'll actually be playing in full at the end of this episode. So make sure you wait around for that. And before we get started talking to Deb as well, Deb actually has an album coming out next month in November called Atlas. So make sure you check that album out as well. Thanks for coming on the show, Deb.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good.
Did you enjoy the set we just did?
I loved it. Yeah, it was very ambient, and it was almost dark, so it was kind of really relaxing.
Nice and chill.
And it would be a nice place to do a gig, I think, all candlelit. Yeah,
I mean, I'm up for that. So when you said that, I thought, I would definitely love to sort out like a gig in that room. And yeah, I mean, dark is always what I aim for.
Especially on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it was it's like a nice sort of like warm, ambient, sort of like relaxed feel in there. But it sounded amazing as well. I say, like, you're really in for a treat. Anybody that's listening, I said, just wait around till the end of today's episode because it sounded really heavenly. You got like an amazing voice, Deb, and I think it was completely different to the last artists we had in there, like Colorblind Monks. They were like more like grungy style, and it was almost like a bit like Alice in Chains, but with a female lead singer or something, which is obviously amazing. But completely different vibe today, and I guess that's one of the things that's great about music is listening to those different styles and how those different styles make you feel. But yeah, it was lovely today listening to that and just how relaxed it was with your voice and everything, and
special
all that
guest
good reverb
appearance as well.
Yeah, Drew's on it as well because we know Deb through Drew. So how did you guys actually meet again properly?
It was through Mel, so Meg's mum.
So Drew's Mrs. Mum.
Yeah. You're really good friends with Mel, aren't you, Deb? And we kind of.
That's it. So
she kept saying, "Oh, you've got to meet Deb." Yeah, my mother-in-law. That's it. Yeah. And yeah, I remember, and it would always. I remember Mel would say, "Oh, you've got to meet Deb and stuff," and then we all went out for a roast. I remember that.
That's it.
Is that how you met properly? Was it
years ago?
Yeah,
years ago now, and now they're my next door neighbours.
Yeah, which is pretty mad. Like literally, and you'd always say, "Oh, you guys should move to Ludlow," and we were like, "Yeah, right, yeah, that'd be cool." Like, but now it's like it's happened, like, and very.
So how did you meet Mel back in the day? Because like Mel's not a musician, is she?
No, Mel's lives in Ludlow as well. Yeah. I don't know how.
So it's just because you're from the same hometown?
Yeah, we just kept running into each other all the time, and I'd been living in Ludlow for a couple of years before I met Mel, and we just kept like chatting, and then it was just before COVID, so it was really timely actually because we were kind of like in a bubble together then. We were sort of lockdown buddies. So when we were allowed to go out, we'd go and have a walk or something and go and eat a chocolate brownie and
nice.
Share food and things. So it was really nice. So, and then we kind of got COVID together as well. So
bonded over that.
Yeah. Oh. So, yeah, I think that those kind of friendships are sort of strengthened through kind of unusual times like lockdown and now it's lovely because I know her daughter Meg and Drew and obviously they've just had little Reuben and I was sort of kind of there through the wall. I could hear the baby being born.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
That's so funny in a way. Just like
Mel and Deb were like listening at that. Yeah,
like we heard Reuben's first cry.
Yeah.
Through the wall, and so I feel kind of like part of the family. It's lovely.
Yeah, that is lovely. Yeah, and also just really cool that's worked out. Obviously, with you being, in like a career musician, lifelong musician, and then meeting Drew as well, and obviously Drew's so adept in the things he does as well. So yeah, so nice, and obviously that's led to today as well. So
I didn't realise that you just met Mel like around or got close around like lockdown time as well, because that's kind of like me and Meg just got together just
similar
before
time,
lockdown and stuff. Yeah, so it's all quite timely.
And like Drew's sort of really helped with my music, like making the music video for Anam Cara years ago.
That's right, they just played us into the show as well.
So and Drew's kind of filmed some shows, and we've also done some recordings together as well, like when I've been asked to write songs for weddings, and the couple have wanted a recording of it. We've just recorded it at Drew's studio, home studio.
The Drewdio.
Yeah, the Drewdio. Yeah, so it's really nice. It's almost like a kind of a little community that we have in Ludlow as well.
That's nice.
Creative, and we'll sometimes have supper together. We'll all eat together, and it's a nice vibe, really, at the Angel where we live. Yeah,
Angel at our side of the Angel. Yeah.
So what's that, the Angel? What do you mean about?
Well, it's like it's kind of
street,
like it's a little street. It's like quite an enchanting little alleyway, which almost looks a little bit like Notting Hill or a bit Mediterranean, where all the houses and the flats are different colours
and almost different shapes as well, going down, isn't it? Yeah.
And they're actually listed buildings as well, like the apartments and the houses. I think. They go back hundreds of years. So they're very charming, and we're on the side. We're kind of next to an antique shop. Lovely, Pete the Antique, and we've got like a coffee shop, Italian place.
The Angel restaurant, that's a beautiful restaurant, isn't it? Like fish, they
it's all on that fish. Just one street?
Yeah, man, just all in this tiny little alley, like,
Yeah, well, and also it's like kind of, it's just like set back off Broad Street, and Broad Street in Ludlow is meant to be one of the loveliest streets in England, according to Benjamin Britten.
Okay.
And there's lots of different architecture on that particular street. You've kind of got Georgian, Victorian, and if you look down that street slightly on a hill, you can see Mortimer Forest on the sort of skyline. It's very, very picturesque. And the thing about living in Ludlow on that street, it's very hard to leave. So you can kind of get quite comfortable living in the sleepy town of Ludlow, which is very nice, very peaceful.
But if it's for the right reasons, then that's a good thing,
Yeah,
just because you've got everything you want.
As long as you can kind of go and travel and come back to a peaceful base, it's a very nice place to live. But it does go quite quiet at kind of 4 o'clock every day.
It's like the town's dead.
That's nice, though. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice place to live, definitely.
So this town is like the polar opposite. This is like the largest town in Somerset now. Don't know if you knew that.
Is it?
Yeah, this is the largest town in Somerset.
So it's like overtook Taunton.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just like hectic all the time. But obviously we're right next to like Hinkley Point as well, which is like the largest nuclear power station in the UK.
Yeah.
And then there's just so much industry and everything
Cars
here.
I always find.
Mad.
Going from Ludlow to here, it always feels like the traffic is insane as soon as you get into Bridgewater. Or trying to leave Bridgewater now, because I've got to go Bristol way and down that new road. It's like almost like packed for hours if you got. It'll take you an hour to get out of Bridgewater.
I know.
Sometimes,
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
I went to Bristol on Wednesday night to see a band Messer, and it was like it took me as long to get out of Bridgewater as it did to get the rest of the way to Bristol, which is crazy. It's crazy. But it sounds great about how quiet Ludlow is. I spent time in Shropshire, but I've never been to Ludlow. But I think Shropshire's a lovely place.
But you will soon.
And Shropshire's the county.
Of course, the county which Ludlow is in, but I've never actually been to Ludlow, but I am going up to see a gig with Drew, I can't remember when, but
it's next year. The Streets are playing Ludlow Castle. So we got Calum tickets for that as well, so that's going to be an interesting one,
which will be hilarious, because obviously it's like, me and Drew like all sorts of different types of music, but we liked that when we were kids. It's just very obviously different to the sort of stuff we would usually go and watch, or at least the sort of stuff that I would usually watch. So it'll be really funny going up for that, and it'll definitely be a bit of a laugh. But so I am going to go and stay in Ludlow when I come up for that gig. But Drew's always singing its praises.
You'll see the Angel in all its glory, and I've got to take you in Pete the Antiques as well, because I've only been in there once, but he's got like things from all over the world, like just random stuff from like China and just all different places. And I saw like a sword in the corner, and then like he saw me looking at it, and then he got out every weapon he had in the store. But it's all this like, he was like there's a guy in now, I'm going to show you all my weapons. It's
like when you're like a little kid and you're around another little boy and just getting out all your like toy guns, and
it was like you could tell he loves it. He's just got all kinds of stuff.
I would, to be fair.
Yeah,
it's like a good opportunity to show off all your hardware.
I feel really protected now, knowing that I live next to a place where there's lots of weapons.
Such an armory. That's like the street armory.
And I met a guy going there as well, and he was Pete the Antique was closed, so I just got chatting to the guy that was like looking to get, and he was going there to buy a musket. and like apparently he sells like all these old antique guns and that in there as well. And I was like, do they work? He was like, every one of my guns works. I was like, all right, mate. All
like
right.
almost like it's like an insult to insinuate that they wouldn't. Yeah,
all these old like
that's so cool. He's
stuff.
ready. He's ready for Waterloo Part 2.
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Amazing. So you were born in Wales originally?
That's right, in Newport, South Wales.
Newport.
That's it, yeah.
So how did you end up in Ludlow? Was that like, did you move to Ludlow when you were a child, or have you moved there more recently, or?
So we moved to Droitwich Spa, so Worcestershire, sort of when I was about 13, 14, with my family, with my dad's job. So I lived in Worcester for a number of years and went to college and then went away to university. And I've been living in Ludlow for about 7 or 8 years now.
Oh, okay, so not for ages, is it?
No, that's it. So
right.
I just wanted a place actually to write my second album. I wanted somewhere quiet and inspiring, and because Ludlow's got the castle and the forest and the river, and it's quite an idyllic place, I thought this would be really nice to write. So I only really planned to be there for a couple of years and then maybe move somewhere else, but it's kind of kept me in the castle walls.
Yeah, you're sort of happy there now.
Yeah, just settled, I think.
Yeah, because obviously it's Shropshire's on the Welsh border as well, so do you like it for that reason? So
I do, yeah.
Yeah?
I love that part of... I love Shropshire. I love the nature, the scenery. I love places like Bishop's Castle. I love driving along those kind of old roads. And
you're very far from motorway, like in that area as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's like
you have to add an hour on to kind of get anywhere to, like, you know, get to the motorway. But I particularly like Shropshire, I think, as a county because of the nature, really. And just it's a feeling you get, I think. The Welsh borders, there's sort of like an ancient feeling where I kind of feel quite at home. There's
lots of lovely places just around that area in general. I'm not just talking strictly about Shropshire, because I know some of these places I think might be Gloucestershire, but you know, you've got like Ross on Wye, that whole sort of like area. We got like the Forest of Dean, and then obviously up north from that is places like Shrewsbury, and then north of that is Ludlow. But that whole sort of just like chunk of area. It's really nice.
Lots of nature.
All sort of like along the Welsh border. Obviously, you've got like Monmouthshire is like lovely. Just that whole area is really nice. I've been to the Forest of Dean like several times, and that whole like why there's that song of yours. You're talking about the river. Was it the river where you live now, or
the river Team is
the one running through Ludlow.
It runs through Ludlow.
So I haven't seen that one, but I always am amazed at how stunning the Wye is. Which isn't too far from you, really.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a beautiful river. I mean, it's just hilarious comparing that. You probably haven't seen it, Deb, unless you passed it on the way here. But compare that to like the River Parrett, which is like, and it was really nice actually, because when you listen to your song, which as I said, everyone will hear it at the end of today's episode. You're talking about all the lovely animals and the things that live there, and it's like, compare that to like River Parrett, you're going to see like a shopping trolley and a paper bag.
Yeah.
like
maybe a horse or a cow,
like a plastic bag. Yeah, it's like maybe like a dead cow or. A couple of plastic bags. Yeah, it's like completely different.
Well, I think how that came about, that song, was I was doing an online songwriting retreat or Zoom. I think it might have been during lockdown actually, and the tutor said, here's an article about the River Wye, but actually about the kind of pollution and the problems with that particular river. And she asked us to write a song about a river that we loved. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me, because the River Team is such a kind of gentle river, really, and there is so much nature. It's actually a nature reserve. So I think I had like a half an hour window where you turn the cameras off on Zoom and you had to write a song. So I just wrote that because of that particular brief I was given to write a song about a river.
So that's what came out of it from that half an hour session.
Yeah, that's it.
Crazy.
And what I did was, I mean, if you go down to the River Team in Ludlow, there's some information about all the nature that you can see, because it's some kind of special site where there is a lot of different birds that you can see, and it does attract otters and herons, and it's really rich in its sort of in the nature that it attracts. And there was a poem by A.E. Houseman from A Shropshire Lad, which is a particularly well-known poem, and those first 4 lines were written on a plaque down by the river. So I started the song with those 4 lines. So I've borrowed a few of Houseman's lyrics, which then I wrote my own, and it led into a kind of full song. But on my last album, I also took some of his lines because his ashes are in the church, St. Lawrence's Church in Ludlow, and he'd written a poem about the war. So that made it onto my last album. So it's funny how certain poets from the area make their way into your songs. And I mean, I haven't really read much of Houseman's poems, but somehow certain lines just are stimulus for a song.
I think it's really good though, like sometimes, and you see this a lot in art, it has like a bit of a domino effect, how like because you've been inspired by them and included some of their work in your work, then somebody that's listening to you, that might inspire them then to go and check out that poet. Yeah. And then, do you know what I mean? It's like keeping them alive. So you're doing them like a service by doing that. And I think, it's like you see that a lot, I think, in music and things like, someone's like inspired by somebody before them, sort of paying homage to them a little bit in their work. And then it's almost like you're then teaching the people that are listening to your work about the artists that came before.
Like the folk songs and that we've talked about before with what's the band that went to the library and
Fairport Convention.
They kind of were looking at all these really old folk
in
songs
Cecil Sharp House.
Yeah, back in the 60s. Yeah, obviously this is like decades and decades before like internet or anything. So you would go to and it was like they had all the old folk scriptures there.
Absolutely,
and there'd be like newspaper clippings from like the 1600s in Portsmouth or from Scotland and they had this like this library there, and they'd rent a house nearby to stay while they were recording their album, and they'd spend like all days there like learning these old like medieval folk songs. So I think that's great, isn't it? Fantastic.
Yeah, I think you have to be inspired from great poets and writers that were around before you, because it somehow adds a depth as well. And who knows, maybe they are kind of in spirit. I mean, the word inspired comes from in spirit of, inspiration. If you break that word down, it's in spirit of. So that's where the word derives from. So who knows, maybe they are kind of calling out in spirit to say, we live on through other people's songs.
Well, who was the what you were saying, Deb, to me about the group of people in London? Was it that were like kind of vagabonds that all lived together and were like artists? And I remember you were telling me like about a street there. I think it was in London.
Like the pre-Raphaelite
movement, and
because I'm quite inspired by the pre-Raphaelite brotherhood, but also there's the pre-Raphaelite sisterhood. So the kind of paintings.
I love pre-Raphaelite stuff.
You do, yeah. So on the album that's coming out, I was asked by Birmingham Museum to write a song for the painting Night with Her Train of Stars. So I took the original poem that inspired the painter to paint Night with Her Train of Stars, and I took those lyrics and wrote the music, and then they played it. We played it live actually outside the painting for the opening of the gallery, the exhibition, and then they put it on a loop on headphones for months.
Oh, that's cool. And that's going to be on this album, isn't it? Your new album, So the street you mentioned, Drew, is like in Bloomsbury. You always see kind of plaques on the wall of where Rossetti lived, or
Gabrielle Rossetti.
Hunt. Yeah, and what I loved about that
is it Dante Gabrielle Rossetti? I think that's the name, isn't
and then Christina Rossetti on my first album. I take a poem of hers and set that to music, because what I loved about that movement was they all collaborated, the painters and the poets, and
that's what I
even textiles as well, like the wallpaper was also decorative with William Morris, and it was just this movement of songs or movement of art that was about truth and beauty, and I really love that, and they continue to inspire me with my music.
I think it's one of the reasons I like pre-Raphaelite paintings and stuff like that as well. I mean, you saw like the sword that's behind me when you came in, and I said I've always loved like fantasy and sword, sword and sorcery stuff and fantasy, and that's like, I mean, all those paintings capture that perfectly.
And strangely enough, on my album cover, there is an illustration of a woman with a sword. So it's really, it's quite amazing to see you've got a sword there in the background. I don't want to touch it though.
It's all connected.
It's
quite heavy actually.
It's a heavy sword, that. Yeah, it's a good sword.
It's a
good sword.
It's a hefty sword.
Yeah. Let's go back to the beginning, Deb, so we can all so I can find out about the story and so everyone else can as well. So you were born in Wales. You said you moved to Worcestershire for your dad's job. So take us through sort of like your early memories. Can you remember, like, obviously music is such a massive part of your life now. Can you remember, the first time you got into music? Were there like specific artists that you listened to that resonated with you, or a specific song, or when did you find out that you wanted to do music yourself? And was singing something you always did? Tell us about that journey.
I think a few of my early memories is finding sort of vinyl in my dad's collection. He had a John Denver record, and I remember just really loving it and taking out the album sleeve and reading all the lyrics, and that's quite a vivid memory, is this John Denver record. For some reason I just wanted to listen to it. My sisters were kind of listening to all this pop music and they couldn't really understand why I was listening to all this like 60s folk.
Deeper stuff.
But just like, I suppose it was a bit folk, it was a bit country, and it just captivated me. And I think particularly Annie's song I really loved. I just loved the words, loved the melody. And then I think what made me realise that I wanted to sing was listening to a singer called Lea Salonga, who was the voice of the musical Miss Saigon. Okay. And I would just sing along to
How old were you then?
I don't know, maybe like 11 or something. Okay. And I think my parents had taken me to the West End to see the show, and the storyline really moved me, and I just listened over and over to her voice. And there was she's a soprano, and I think something about the way that she sang, I sang along to it, and it was as if I was learning to sing through her. And amazingly, I got to meet her on one of my birthdays, because my friend who plays piano and I co-write with actually ended up being her pianist on her tour. So I definitely say Lea Salonga was a big influence. And I think I used to just sing along to Diana Ross and Joan Baez.
Joan Baez, amazing.
I just would just loved singing, and I started to play classical guitar when I was young as well, so I did the kind of weekly lessons, but I didn't really like the structure of that. But I think I
like the technicality of it?
Yeah, and just doing theory, and
didn't float your boat.
I just didn't want to continue doing exams, but I think that early musical kind of practice, because I was practicing these classical pieces, I think that's been useful, because now I can pick up the guitar and use it almost like a vehicle to get the songs out. So I wouldn't say that I'm particularly, masterful guitarist, but it's enough for me to be able to create with, and also tour with and support myself. Yeah, and it's
helpful to know it.
Yeah,
it's helpful to know, isn't
it? Just to be able to use it. And I particularly like it when I can play with other musicians, like Drew playing on that song that we did in the studio. I love playing the basic melody line, and then, or the basic chords, and then have somebody else kind
just
of
layering it up.
Yeah, I really love that. And
I completely agree. I think I'm exactly the same as you, Deb, in terms of like to me, the fun thing about music is like the emotion and the creativity, like how the music makes you feel. If you're listening to somebody else's work, and then if it's your own, it's like honing that creativity in yourself and then bringing that to life. Like, that's the fun part. Like, the theory is sort of like, to me at least, like a necessary evil. I don't find it like the most boring thing in the world, but I only find it interesting to a point. And I think once you've gotten to that certain, as long as you can, your chords, you can play the majority of songs, you can figure things out, obviously that's really helpful, massively helpful. But beyond that, I have no I just don't have the will to spend hours and hours every day learning all these different guitar scales and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't interest me.
Yeah, I think you've got to do what you love doing, otherwise you don't do it.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think it's helpful to know.
Yeah.
And I think when you collaborate with others that really do know that music theory, or they have different skills to complement yours, and maybe they don't sing or maybe they don't write, but I think that's in a way where there's something that you don't major on, it always opens the door for collaboration.
100%.
Which I think makes it all so much more enjoyable when you can say, oh, I'm going to work with this person, and they can add something to what you can bring.
All the different flavours and the different strengths and weaknesses, they complement each other.
Yeah, Deb was at you were at on your last tour that you've just done in was it Berlin? Belgium, sorry.
Belgium.
I always say
Everyone
Berlin.
does. It's not just you, Drew.
Because Meg went to Berlin as well, so I've just got Berlin in my head. But yeah, Belgium.
Go to Berlin.
And you were saying that the place where it was like a music retreat. And that sounded amazing, because like Deb played a gig there, but who were the people there? Were they some kind of world musicians? It was kind of like this monastery. It was a converted monastery into a music venue. Actually, they were the ones that had these beautiful Persian rugs, and I walked into the chapel where I was doing a concert, and there was a beautiful painting of these two oud players.
Okay.
And,
you know the oud?
The oud, the kind
really
of
cool instrument.
Egyptian
like a lute almost, but like a fretless lute.
Beautiful sound. And I said, I've just recorded so on the title track of the album, there's a Moroccan oud player on my song called Atlas. So I said, oh, wow, that's amazing. I've just recorded with an oud player. And they said, that particular musician's coming tonight. He's from Antwerp. He literally then walked through the door. He was in the painting, and then he kind of materialised.
What? Like, how random is that?
I know. And he was with his master oud player, who's this like world famous oud player. And then he said, I'm just picking up a lady from Iran who's this amazing oud player. So I was surrounded that weekend. I was surrounded with ouds, and I haven't really played with an oud player ever. And they were rehearsing for a tour, but it's like a residency. So musicians go there, painters, writers, and they hire the space to either get ready for a performance, or maybe they're writing a book, or they're doing.
Sounds like an awesome place, man.
I was meant to stay just for the concert. I ended up staying 2 days, and I listened to their rehearsals, and they had a double bass player from Greece, and it was just awesome.
And being surrounded by people that may have a different forte from you, that are just masters in a different area. I remember you saying like you were sitting at breakfast, and then they're talking about all these scales and that, but it's just it kind of opens up your mind a bit, doesn't it? Or gets you like it's
like I'm not a morning person at all, and we all sat together and ate meals, so breakfast, lunch and dinner. The point is you all sit around and chat, and it was the most intellectual breakfast I've ever had.
Really?
They were talking about Middle Eastern music and the different scales, and all the different instruments and percussion instruments and types of drums, and it just blew my mind. And I had to just write down all these things to then like later research. But the whole tour in Belgium for me was this music education. I learnt so much about world music when I was in Belgium.
Wow.
So,
that sounds amazing about that. I mean, how do you even like find out about a place like that? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I know. It was like someone I met in Scotland who's from Belgium gave me a bunch of email addresses to email to say I was touring in Belgium, and they replied. And I had to get trains and buses, taxis to get there because it was so remote.
Really?
And when I arrived,
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was such an accomplishment to even get there, on the same day. And I allowed a lot of travel time because I thought, there's all these stations are in Flemish. I don't know if I'm going to find it or not. But I got there, and they were so welcoming. It's called the Rosario.
Right, okay.
And
I'm gonna look it up just for
I want to go there for like a holiday or something. Just a little like holiday weekend.
Just go there for a rest. It's so quiet.
So
the quietest gig I've ever done in my life.
I want to talk about some Persian scales.
Hell yeah! I want to jam on some oud, man.
Sufi poems. We've got a library. It's a stunning place.
Yeah, that's amazing. So going back to you were saying you learnt some classical guitar when you were younger. You were inspired by a couple of different artists. So how did that transition from you learning a little bit of guitar to you then when did you start writing your own music, actually like performing yourself? Like, what was the transition from that, or what did that come about later, or was that just like a natural transition when you were young? Or
I think the singing came first. It was that I just wanted to sing, and I didn't quite know how I was going to be able to perform, because when you're at school you're doing English and more sort of academic subjects, and I didn't really know how to go down a musical path. So I used to just sing at any chance that I could, like on karaoke. Do, like,
so you would just go and do karaoke? Yeah.
I would, just so that I could just get it out my system and sing. And I'd always pick these power ballads. And
always got by on my own. I never really cared until I met you. Just like imagining you like some bars.
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. They were my go-tos, and I could just kind of let rip.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what though, if you get used to singing Celine Dion, you're going to get pretty good there, aren't you? Because she's got some pipes.
It's challenging.
She's got some pipes.
Singing all by myself, in the same key as Celine Dion was difficult. But so it was things like that, and then I think I got a part in the school play singing Olivia Newton-John, "Hopelessly Devoted to You," and I loved that. It was sort of, I didn't quite know how to get into it, and then I took a year off before going to university. I actually studied journalism at uni, and I thought, right, I've got this year now, and I'm gonna really focus on the music. And I was lucky to get a job working with a really good saxophone player, and it was a proper professional duo. Where we got gigs, at hotels and weddings, and they were really good. It was a really good first job as a singer. And actually, the couple, they lived in Droitwich. They now run a music school in America. So they were really good, and that was my sort of first job as a singer. And then I set up my own duo with guitar, and I chose all the songs, and they were covers, but I was doing 3 or 4 gigs a week in pubs, in hotels, and a lot of experience doing long sets, 2, sometimes 3 hours.
Wow, that's going to hone in your craft.
Yeah, it was like most of my practice was just live experience. I don't really practice at home, but because I was doing so many gigs.
That was your practice?
Yeah, that was my practice, doing pop songs, doing everything from the Beatles to actually a lot of Eva Cassidy's arrangements. I got asked.
Were you playing on the guitar and singing, or?
Actually, it was with a guitarist from Evesham, and he was playing and backing me, and I wasn't playing the guitar at that time. I was just singing.
Learning a lot of lyrics around that time.
Yeah, that's it. And then I think I started to write a bit later, and I was still working in a corporate job, sort of a full-time job, long commute, working in communications, but still doing all the singing on the side. And then I got the opportunity to attend a songwriting festival in Bath. And that
lovely
really,
city. Lovely city.
Yeah.
Didn't know they did like a songwriting festival.
They did a songwriting festival, and it was for a week. And I got to co-write a song with the guitarist from Snow Patrol, Ian Archer.
That's very random.
And we have like all these guest writers. They come and you get to write in a room with them, and it was just the best week of my life.
Oh, they're coming to Ludlow as well, Snow Patrol. So is that guy going to be there?
I don't know whether he's still Ian Archer. I'm not sure he's still playing with them. Right. But this experience for me, just thought, right, I want to be a songwriter. And I saw they were doing an MA in songwriting at this university, at Bath Spa University. They were doing a master's degree, and so I spoke to my boss. I was working at the NEC group in Birmingham, and I spoke to her and I said, can I do this job part-time so I can travel to Bath for 2 days a week and do an MA? So I did that. And,
that's good. They let you do that and stuff in the job and that. Keep it going at the same time.
Yeah, and so I think it took me like 3 years to do the MA, and then by that time I wanted to be a full-time singer and songwriter. So gave up the job, gave up the house, gave up the car, and it was me and the guitar, and that's sort of where it's gone from, really. I've sort of been predominantly self-employed as a musician since then, really. It all led from that week, doing that festival. I think doing what I loved for that week made me think, I want to do this for a job, but it felt like a bit of a risk.
Well, of course, it's taking a big plunge, isn't it? Yeah, but you can't put a price on doing what you love for a living, can you?
No, I mean it has its ups and downs for sure.
Yeah, of course.
But it's definitely worth it because it's such a strong call to do it, that if you're not doing it, yet then you feel somehow you're not really doing what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. Do you remember what was like the first song you wrote?
Good question. It's funny because I just found the CD a couple of days ago, because I did my first recording on analog with a producer called Bob Lamb, who's quite influential in Birmingham, and news hit the last couple of days he passed away.
Oh, rest in peace.
In Thailand, and I literally just found the recording of these, which I don't have on CD anywhere, but I think we put it on a DVD or something. But yeah, it was a song that I wrote about my grandmother called Free, and it was about my grandmother when she started to have signs of having dementia. Yeah.
So that was the first song you ever wrote?
Yeah, and actually it was Ian Archer from Snow Patrol. He had to pick some songs out from like a kind of lucky dip, really, and then kind of play them in a theatre of students and critique them. And he chose that song, and he chose a line from that song, and he said that he thought it was really beautiful about my grandmother. And I think that encouraged me a lot, because I think when somebody who's made albums and records and then you get that positive encouragement that you think, oh, maybe my songs are okay then. And I remember Bob Lamb as well saying to me, like, he was always smoking weed and stuff in the studio, and he was like, yeah, let's put bongos on there.
Hell yeah.
That's so funny.
He was such
That's
a character.
So funny.
But and he was an American, but I remember him saying to me, oh, you should be making records, man.
Yeah.
You should be making records. And I thought, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So I think when people encourage you,
they're in the industry as well.
They're in the industry, and they have a working studio. And it was my first time in a recording studio, I think, making an EP of like 4 or 5 songs I'd just written, and I didn't really know whether they were any good or not.
Yeah.
And then you have pros like saying, yeah, do this. It's like, oh, thanks. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. Well, what was like the transition for you? Because I know that like some people struggle sometimes if they've only sort of had experience doing covers and then making that switch suddenly to just wanting to write their own material. Was that hard for you at first, or did it just come naturally?
It's a good question, because I think, I came quite late to it, but then I think it was the songwriting course, the MA, where you were asked to write a new song every week and perform it to the class.
Wow, yeah.
So you had a deadline. Strangely enough, those songs that I wrote to a brief, I didn't always use in my gigs. Because maybe they were like more pop songs or something, and they didn't feel so personal. But I think it got you into that practice.
Of course, yeah.
And I think after being at Bath Spa, what I then did was I went to Nashville, and I did some songwriting retreats with some amazing writers, and that's what really helped and created my last album because I'd given myself that time. Because sometimes it can be hard when you're working and you're at home and there's all distractions. But I do tend to like to go away to write, especially if you're trying to write, lots of songs. Apart from lockdown, of course, that for me was a really good period of songwriting where I wrote lots and lots of songs. But definitely attending retreats in Nashville was very helpful.
With the uni or the masters as well, what kind of thing would that entail, like as a songwriting kind of like at masters like that? Like are you going into like more deeper aspects of what it is to create a story and things, rather than just like because the way I've always used it as just like an expression is of just like something I'm feeling or something. It's been almost like a bit of a release to get some words out on that. But true songwriting is so much broader. Like, it's crazy that you can do a master's degree in it. Like, you know,
that is crazy. Yeah.
And like for me, it wasn't like a music degree, so it wasn't like I was studying composition. And you do a module which is the history of songwriting, so you do get to break down songs from like Leonard Cohen, from
what makes a really like interesting song or something.
And I think you'd mentioned on your podcast Townes Van Zandt. So all these great American writers. I mean, strangely enough, we studied a lot of Jimmy Webb's work, and then I ended up touring with Jimmy Webb.
Wow.
So that was kind of a synchronicity. But what I loved about that master's degree was that you just immerse yourself in songs.
That sounds like my kind of music. Do you know what I mean?
Like really cool, doesn't it?
And also structure, so things like looking at what makes a good bridge, what makes a good chorus.
Because I've never looked into that stuff.
No, I didn't. To be honest, I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was a course at the time.
I now do those songwriting courses. So if you want to. We could do one together, maybe.
No, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
And record it, and because that's. I think it's just about having a passion for songs, and it's not necessarily about a theoretical approach to it. Like, I didn't come out of that uni feeling that I'd done a music degree. I just feel like I immerse myself in songs, and that's kind of how I teach, because I've done some songwriting workshops in prisons and with children in schools, and it's, for me, it's more about
that's amazing. I didn't know
about
that.
the inspiration. It's not about these chords, because half of the time I don't know 100%. What chords I'm playing. I just make shapes and sounds that I like. So I don't go in as a music teacher, but I just try and bring the song, almost like you're kind of giving birth to the song. So you're like a midwife to the songs.
100%. And I think that's really important, that I think you do write that. I think that's the best way to write songs. I think it's really important that people write songs like that, because I think one thing that I did a little bit when I was younger was, and especially because I really liked a lot of like metal music and a lot of like very technical music when I was a teenager, I think sometimes I thought that to like write a good song, it had to be like a really technically complex song. And I think that was like to my detriment. Whereas I feel like now, especially because I write songs more like I'll come up with a melody in my head first, and then I'll figure it out on the guitar. I don't know if you're the same. But I feel like that's the best way, at least for me, to like write a song, it's because then and then it's like, if it turns out that it's just like a couple of really simple chords, it doesn't matter, because it's the melody what's important.
Definitely.
It's not how complex it is.
Absolutely. And I think if your instrument is the voice, then melodies might come more naturally to you. For me, melody is my thing, and lyrics, but chords not necessarily, which is why, say, on one of the songs I played today, the chords, I'm staying on a C for a lot of the verse, and then I'll change to a G, and then in the chorus it's D minor and F. but they're very drawn out and it's spacious. So that's why it's nice
rather
to have
than changing all the time.
Yeah,
and
because but the melody is the melody is what is kind
carrying
of
it.
interesting in a way, I suppose. So it's whatever. And I mean, songs come from different. I mean, sometimes you might write the lyrics first and then the music, and it does change. But often, like
do you do that sometimes? So do you sometimes write the lyrics before you've written the melody?
Yeah, and sometimes I just get a concept and I think, right, I just, like with Anam Cara, I found the book by John Donoghue, this Irish poet. I refound the book. I'd already read it, but I refound it in Glasgow Cathedral, and there was a lot of serendipity, and I just saw the book and I thought, Anam Cara, beautiful name for a song. It means soul friend in Gaelic. And I thought, actually, that's an album title. So that was my pointer. So that was my starting point, Anam Cara. I knew it was going to be the chorus. I didn't have the music for it. I just had the idea, the concept of a soul friend, and it was going to be Gaelic and it was going to be Celtic. So it was the word, the phrase. I almost could see what it was going to be like, and then I had to sit down with the guitar and let the word. And I had the book with me, and I just let it flow. And I almost feel like I don't remember that process even.
Wow. That's very intriguing.
Opened up to the muses and let them come through.
Let them seep through. So often I am led by concepts of I feel this strong sense of I want a song about this, like I want to write about this landscape, or I want to write about this.
But once you've done that, then like what happens? Is it then the melody that comes to you, or does it just vary?
Yeah, so then it's about I pick up the guitar, and I will have to find some kind of guitar chord shape. Something musical,
and even
then
different tunings,
different guitars have
inspire different things
in them that then dictates where it's going to go, and then
different guitars. So like literally just like the difference like between like shapes and guitars, and
like that Faith guitar.
Yeah, so like more like loud.
I had to buy that guitar because I'd borrowed a friend's, and I wrote 3 songs on that guitar that I felt like I couldn't play those songs on any other guitar.
Wow.
And he didn't
so
want
that was
to
like
lend
limited.
it me anymore.
Yeah.
He wanted it back.
I'll have to buy one of those then.
He wanted it back. So luckily Faith sort of sponsored me and took a little bit of money off the price, but I put it in a tuning, an unusual tuning, which I'm not sure I can even remember what it is now. It's not Dad Gad and it's not Dad Dad, but it is a down tuning, a drop D, and the tuning made these songs. So if I'm struggling for new musical ideas, I'll have to choose a different tuning. But often, when I went to Morocco a few years ago, I borrowed a guitar from someone who was living there. They let me use it. And I feel sure that if I'd taken my own, the song would be different.
Right.
There was something in the guitar
That's so interesting, isn't it?
I love that people say that, like what song wants to come out of the guitar, like what story has it got to tell,
the instruments hold the song sometimes.
It's interesting because obviously you hear like some people love like the tech behind guitars, and I do to an extent. Do you know what I mean? Like me and Drew will get in conversations about different guitar shapes and pickups, and the difference between say like a Gibson ES and then a Gibson Les Paul and then a Fender.
I love it because I tried to talk to Meg about it and she doesn't want to know. And then
a Fender Telecaster. Do you know what I mean? They're all like so unique in this. So it's a bit like Drew earlier on talking about that Antiques guy with all the different weapons. It's like similar. It's like you can appreciate them all in their own different way, and they all bring something different to the table. Yeah, and that's sort of beautiful and interesting. Yeah. But it's interesting because what we're talking about more is like a literal difference, like the difference between say like a solid body and a semi-hollow body, or a hollow body, or a single coil pickup, or and that
means nothing to me. So I'm like,
really?
I'm like Megs in that regard, like the kind of.
So you're not interested in that?
No, I'm not interested.
But you're sensitive to the differences when you play different guitars.
In terms of like what energy they have.
Yeah.
So you're seeing it from...
It's all about energy for
you're
me.
seeing it more in a spiritual
I don't even
way.
know what my guitars are made of, actually. I don't even know what wood they are. Should probably know that.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's like, it's up to you, isn't it? I mean, I know everybody's different. Some world-class musicians are meticulous about it, and others are like almost anti that, aren't they? They're like, you should be able to pick up any guitar, any shape, any wood, and be able to knock something out on that. And if not, they almost think that that's like a knock against you as a musician almost. Whereas like some people love the in-depth technicality and like, well, I would use this for that and I would use that for that. And you know,
I'm definitely into it, but I also like when you do just pick up any different instrument, and because of the way it feels, it does inspire you to play different things. Like if when I pick up little bouzouki or something, like I'm just like, I don't even know what tune I could look what tuning it is, but like I think I've just tuned it like 2/5 or something, like, but just kind of did it without knowing the tuning and just like what sounded good, and then it just inspires you to play something just different, you know.
Sure.
So it's nice that all different instruments bring out this inspiration to just like so I don't think it's necessary to know it, but it's to like know about the different woods and that, but if you're into it, like I'm just really into it as well.
To be honest, it's a little bit similar to what we were saying about the theory. Like it can be helpful in some ways to know about it to an extent. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, like a mahogany guitar you might not clash against your vocals so much. It'd be easier for your vocals to cut through compared to like a spruce. Something that, but it's similar in terms of like, you know, we were saying, you know, of course it's helpful to know your chords, so it can come in handy, but it's not the be all and end all.
And like I'm at this guitar festival I went to recently, I got the chance to speak to the guy from O'Gorman Guitars, and he's like a really renowned like builder, and he was like, oh, so what kind of electrics do you like playing and that, and he started asking me these questions, and he was like, I could tell you, because I don't know as much about all the acoustic woods, like the properties and that, like to the depth that someone like him does.
Of course, yeah.
So he was like,
there's levels.
There's levels. And he was like, tell me about what kind of good electric guitars you play. Are you a humbucker or a single coil and that? And he was like, I could build you like your perfect acoustic just from knowing what electrics you're into, because of
that's
like,
crazy.
the way that they translate into acoustic woods and shapes and stuff like that. And I was like, well, yeah, that's so cool. But he was like, he's not even expecting his clients to know what they want, but he can.
So out of interest, what did you tell him?
I was saying like mahogany body, like so my favourite guitars have been my Charvel and my Gibson Explorer.
So like a solid
and
body
both
mahogany.
of them have been mahogany body, mahogany neck, and like maple cap on the Charvel. But so he was like, oh yeah, you know, humbucker or single coil. I'm like, I do like single coils, but pretty much all my guitars are like humbuckers. So he was like, oh okay, like, and I can't remember what he actually said to me about what kind of guitar I would like of his. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
That is very intriguing. Yeah, that is very intriguing. Yeah,
sorry, just gone off on a bit of a tangent there.
Spot the guitar.
Just like hijacked a minute to talk about, But no, we were saying like...
Just continue, don't worry, I've had a nap.
But it was, it was really intriguing. Like, as I was saying, like, listen to you, your perspective was like more... wasn't at all the technicality of guitars. It was more like almost like the spirituality of guitars. You're saying, like picking up different ones and how, you know, something that would inspire something to come out of you or to create something on that instrument, depending on whose it was or where it had been before or something. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's good to play an instrument that you don't play. So maybe going as a songwriter, going to a piano if you don't play piano, and just seeing what comes. I often find that you can write a cappella songs like that too. So the instrument might inspire a particular melody. So for example, one of the songs on the album is called Sing a New Song, and I wrote that on the Faith guitar. It was in an unusual tuning, and I got the chords and the melody. I wrote it with the guitar as accompaniment, and then I was asked to enter it into a competition. And because I'd finished writing it the day of the competition, I wasn't that confident playing the guitar. So at the last minute, I just put the guitar aside and thought, well, I'm confident singing it because melody is my favourite.
That's what comes easiest.
So I just sang it, and now I don't even remember what chords I wrote.
Wow.
If someone asked me to play
over
it,
that much.
yeah, I couldn't find it now, because that's like 3 years ago. So, and I always sing it a cappella at every gig, and it works as an a cappella song because it's quite a poignant message. So yeah, the chords are long gone. I have no idea how I can play that now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Going back to your sort of like just your more like your chronological journey. So, you know, you said that you went to Nashville. What happened after you went to Nashville for the first time?
Yeah, so Nashville, it was strange actually, because it was either I was going to go to Bath and do the degree, or I was going to Nashville. And in the end, because those two things came up when I was researching, I want to be a songwriter. What do I do? And I did. What, I missed that, Drew. What did you say?
So good old Google.
Yeah. Now it's AI.
Now it's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But
Bath, Nashville. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I think it was like Bath was like cheaper. The Bath Festival was cheaper. So I did that, and that led to the degree. And then Nashville came at the right time when I really wanted to write an album. And I think I found my writer's voice. So I felt I did a workshop with Mary Gaucher. I'm not sure if you know of Mary Gaucher's work. I don't
think so, no.
Well worth a listen. And she really helped me believe in what I had to say in terms of she helped me give myself permission to be a songwriter and find my writer's voice in terms of my own lyrics, because on my first album, a lot of poems I set to music, and I maybe hid behind the poems a little bit. You know, like I took a pre-Raphaelite poem, Lady of Shalott by Tennyson, or Shakespeare, William Blake's on there. There are still my own songs, but I hadn't really written from a place of, I'd been through some stuff, And
was that a confidence thing?
I think it was just I'd never done it before. I'd never written from real life experience of the things that had happened to me, maybe the more difficult things in my life. And going on that retreat just gave me the courage.
They were like, that's where the juicy stuff is.
Yeah. Because she said like it's 3 chords and the truth. So it was like I was really put in the hot seat to really write what I was feeling. And then I ended up putting that on the album. So that was my second album where there was, no poems. It was all my own work. It's
interesting though. I feel like that's easier said than done. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to almost like say that, but I feel like it's quite hard to actually do that.
Yeah.
That whole I mean, that's a great saying, like 3 chords and the truth. But to me, like, because I struggle with that. And as a result, I often end up writing like comedic things. And it's like, I don't know, it's like
hide behind.
I love comedy, so I think, do you know what I mean? It's not like a negative thing, but at the same time, it's like if it's almost like if you're incapable of doing anything but that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but like it's not with me. It's not necessarily like a confidence thing in a traditional sense. Because I think if it was as simple as that, I would just suck it up. It's like it's deeper than that.
It is.
Do you know what I mean?
And
it's a very vulnerable thing.
Absolutely, it's vulnerability.
And and you got to be careful, because I've written some things and I listen to it now and I'm like, oh my Christ, like weird stuff that I done when I was going through like my first heartbreak
your
and
old
that,
diaries.
and like and it's almost like so embarrassing, but it's true, because you were going through that at that time, and it captures that. But like, oh man, I wouldn't even want to play it again now. It's a fine line, because that was almost when I was younger. That was my like therapy or something. It was like horrible stuff. Like I would go through that, but when you're a teenager, you think you know what love is, but really you don't. You're talking about obsession and infatuation and things that aren't like real true love, but you think they are, and you write them like, do you know what I mean? Like, so I went through a bit of that, and it's just embarrassing now listening to some
but then
of that
again,
stuff.
I mean, that's still relevant. It's not something that's not necessarily just a childish thing. It's love, it's romance. It's like there's so many different. And somebody
else out there might be at that stage now, even if you're not. Do you know what I mean? I just think it's like sometimes it's hard to articulate like how you're feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's not as easy as just like put that pen to paper. Do you know what I mean? Because it can, like, we're so complex. we're such complex creatures. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes if somebody was like, "How are you feeling?" Like, I don't know. So I'm all right. But like, if you're asking me on like a really deep level, like, I don't know.
It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You know,
do you know what I mean? Like,
chip away at a few things to like, kind of like,
unleash the beast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you do these retreats, they are very cathartic, and often a lot of emotion they use a lot of energy, and a lot of people are vulnerable, and it's surprising what happens. It's more than just a songwriting. They're very healing, actually.
Very cathartic.
And Mary Gaucher, she wrote an amazing book called Saved by a Song, and she really believes that music is healing in the sense of it can really help work through trauma. And when I've worked in the prisons as well, I've worked with people who haven't been able to articulate what they went through in their childhood, which led them to, sentences, to
whatever,
crime,
whatever
to
it might
being
be,
in gangs,
and
and I've had like grown men, in tears because they have put pen to paper and they've articulated those feelings that perhaps, it's hard for them down the gym to, if someone says, "How you doing?" they don't want to share because they haven't been given that space. So it's about creating like
container.
a safe, supportive space for people to process, and I think that's what art therapy is, isn't it?
So when you were doing that in prisons, you were literally so you were teaching them to write songs, or was it more like poetry they were writing?
No, it was songs. I mean, my very first experience of it was in Wolverhampton in a prison called Featherstone, and I didn't know what to expect. I kind of got thrown in at the deep end.
How did you get into that in the first place?
So it was, I have an interest in it, and I expressed an interest in it, and then somebody called me and said, "Oh, do you fancy doing a songwriting course in the prison? Go meet the governor." What I did.
That sounds like
the governor. You want to go meet the governor?
That sounds like something from like a movie.
Yeah.
Well, first you got to speak to the governor.
To get into Featherhill.
It's not on me, it's on the governor.
And what I didn't realise was within 2 weeks I would be literally thrown into a room of 13 men. It was just me and my guitar, and I just showed up, and I'd never done a course. I'd never even delivered a songwriting course before. And usually it takes about 6 months to get all your security checks.
Yeah, sure.
And for some reason it was just
flowed.
It was just go now and do it, and I didn't know what to expect, and it was the most miraculous experience, and probably the most life-changing week of my life.
Really?
Because the people I was working with, one guy, he could play guitar like he could play all these Chopin pieces.
Wow.
He was the most accomplished guitarist
in the prison.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was amazing.
Really classically trained. And
he could play every classical piece.
Wow.
He could recite the Bible from beginning to end.
Wow.
Really profound person. One of the guys could sing like Lou Reed. And
these are the prisoners?
All the prisoners.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
They should make a prison band.
So we did. We made an album.
So good.
So it was a course that I didn't know how it was going to go. But because
were you a bit worried about it?
Oh, yeah, I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was completely terrified. I didn't know. I had to just read the room and make it up as I went along, but really tuning in with the different skills that were in the room. Somebody who could really write, someone who could sing, someone who could play the guitar, and I had to oversee it and encourage everyone to kind of collaborate together. And there was one person, he couldn't read or write, and was very nervous, but he'd had a particular experience that he spoke to me about. So we wrote those into lyrics about his first night in jail and how terrified he was. And we ended up writing a song called Lock and Key, which sounded like a Nashville sort of country hit. But it was the combination of everyone's talents come together. And because what I was experiencing was this unfolding of this really creative energy, so I said, right, can I bring in a sound engineer? And can I bring in a video guy who I know used to work for the BBC? Can we make a documentary on it? Because these guys had stories, and they were stories of redemption as well, and their change. A lot of them had found God in jail too. They'd found their faith, and they were turning their lives around, and there was a lot of hope. There was a lot of inspiration.
There's your story arc.
And that, I know. But the amazing thing is that in prisons, you aren't allowed, if you take a phone in, you get arrested. You can't take in laptops. You can't take in technical. It's such a massive risk. And the process of that is so complicated. But again, there was no checks. I had a sound engineer in. He built the whole studio. And then all the cameras came in, and we made a documentary and an album in 1 week.
Wow.
And you can hear these. I've got a SoundCloud link. Yeah, I must show you I can send you.
We can play some on the radio, some of the tracks if you've got them. Yeah.
Let's play it because this worked. And then what happened was we entered these songs into this national awards called the Kessler Awards, which is
I've heard of them,
you've heard of the Kessler, and they're national awards for people in prison for art and for music, and they won 7 for their songs, spoken word and the documentary, and they were exhibited at the Royal Festival Hall in London. So that was all from me just being thrown into a room with 13 inmates.
It's funny that how you said it was about like Nashville vibes, because obviously a lot of traditional country songs are about, you got like Folsom Prison Blues, which is obviously a hugely famous song, and like a lot of these artists, these old
real roots,
these old country ones, some of them had been in prison and stuff like that. So
and guess what, when I was in Nashville, who should I bump into? Johnny Cash's son.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean, of all the people you could meet in Nashville, and I met him, and it was on Johnny Cash's birthday as well.
Wow. Was that when he was still alive? Or?
No,
he's already passed away by that point.
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd say did you have any, was your experiences with the prisoners, was it purely positive, or did you have any negative experiences? Or
I don't think I did, really. No. I don't think I had any negative experiences. I felt that I was treated with a lot of respect. I was treated with a lot of gratitude as well, and I just had a positive experience, and I'd like to do it more. But since COVID, I mean, most people are trying to get out of jail, but I'm sort of trying to get back
trying to get in jail. Trying to get in.
It's not quite. It's not quite materialised. But also, what was lovely was that the prison guard, who was my sort of
was he there with you the whole time?
He was like my bodyguard.
So he had to be there with you the whole time?
He had to be with me the whole time, which was really reassuring. But what was amazing about it was that he was a brilliant songwriter, but a budding songwriter, someone who wanted to he hadn't really experimented. So
he had a talent for it, but he just hadn't made the time to put it as his main path in life.
And now he's songwriting. He phoned me the other day, and he's like still making records. And he ended up coming to, because I ran the same course then in a women's prison in Staffordshire, and he came to the women's prison to take part in the course.
Wow.
And he'd actually just lost his mum and was going through like a lot of grief and bereavement. So he was using those sessions as a way of coming to terms with that and writing songs. But at the same time, it was really nice to have him there because he knew the prison system and he just had my back, basically. And it was in a way slightly more challenging working in the women's prison for me than it was in the...
Why do you think that is?
In the men's prison. I think, and if I'm completely honest, the level of musical talent in the men's prison, it was sort of
Miraculous,
shockingly,
it sounds.
miraculously high.
Well, I guess it's luck of the draw that that first experience.
I think sadly as well that a lot of the men, they did have the confidence,
right,
and the women really lacked it. And if you think about the stories of the women in abusive relationships,
the sort of women that might end up in prison,
abusive relationships, really difficult. Not to say that the men hadn't had difficult,
but it could be different.
But the women were there were some quite shy women, really lacking confidence, and maybe didn't take it as seriously.
Okay,
so they weren't working as hard as the men were, and it was just a different. I think it was more light relief. It was light relief for the women, and for the men, they just
super meaningful.
Really,
they grabbed the bull by the horns.
They were like,
we weren't
ready
get
to
an opportunity like this again.
Yeah.
I know this might sound like I don't want to simplify it to this as well, but I think, and I don't think this has to be like an overly simplified thing. I think it's actually very important. It was probably actually really nice for them as well to actually spend some time one-on-one with a woman. Do you know what I mean? Because, obviously, if you're a man in prison, you're not going to be able to. And I think it's good for men's soul to be with a woman sometimes. So it's great. Men love being around other men because you sort of devolve into like chimps, and it's fun. And you're all sort of being like running around, being chimps, being silly, laughing at each other, and that's great. But I feel like when you're around, when a man is around a woman, and vice versa, it's sort of like you balance each other out a little bit, and there's something very, very nice about that, very complimentary.
And
it was probably very
respect is there, and stuff
there's like a feminine energy. Yes. I suppose there was a sense of me listening to and encouraging them to share, so they kind of felt safe, I think, in sharing. And also I would bring in guest musicians with me, so I would often bring. So
you managed to get them in as well.
Yeah, I know. So Martin Thomas from Ludlow, he came in and he'd bring his mandolin and the guitar. So there was almost the male and the female. So you never know. It might have been just the balance of masculine and feminine energies, which worked really well. But I did find that I was treated with so much respect in the jail, more so than I have been in situations on the outside. Right. And isn't that amazing? That you wouldn't think, being in a room full of men who've committed some very, very serious crimes, would be very gracious. They would almost be saying, "Oh, miss, I've only seen you eat biscuits today. Like, would you like my fruit? I think you need to eat an apple." Like sharing their food. And then they were like, "Miss, it's snowing out there. It's going to be a bit dangerous driving back. I mean, we could ask. I'm sure there's somewhere you could stay in the prison." I'm like, they're offering me a cell. I'm like, no, thanks. Like thanks for caring, but I'm going to go home.
Yeah, that's so funny.
My nice warm flats.
I think it just goes to show, sometimes we can have like a negative connotation maybe, or maybe think that there's more of a difference between somebody that would say be in a prison than there is between somebody on the outside. But I guess sometimes there's a very thin line
such a
between.
Good point.
Do you know what I mean? There's a very thin line between somebody that's walking the streets and somebody that's in a prison. And I mean, I know people in my own life who have done prison sentences that, because I know their story, obviously I don't want to say too much, but because I know their story, I know they're no different than the three of us here right now, because I know them well enough to say that. But if you didn't know them, I could see how you would have a different view. You know what I mean? You might put that negative connotation, that judgment on them.
Well, on my second album,
Crimes of Passion, things like that.
Inspired by my first visit to a women's prison, the line there, "But for the grace of God go I," came to me very clearly. So there's a song called "Grace Go I," and it is about that. And actually the line you just said, "There's no difference between you and I," it's a fine line. So that's the chorus. There's no difference between you and I. It's a song about how we are all human. We are all vulnerable to bad decisions, wrong turns. It's a very fine line, and often prisoners are demonized and you don't know the context, you don't know the backstory, and everyone deserves second chance. And I think bringing in any kind of therapy or rehabilitation program into a prison, that's how you're going to make change, by giving people a chance to build a better life. And I think sometimes songwriting can help with that process, because it just gives people a vehicle to express themselves, work through emotions,
and maybe a chance that you haven't had on the outside world.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of you don't even know that that's a thing that could help or do.
100%.
It's just not been in your vicinity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes it takes maybe something like that, like to be in prison, until maybe might sound like a funny thing to say. And I'm sure these guys don't get these sort of opportunities all the time, don't get me wrong, but maybe for something like that happens, so that opportunity could come to you. Whereas if you were at rock bottom on the outside, someone's not going to come over your house and do that.
You're just going to be deep in the depths of rock bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're just like wallowing in whatever mess is going on in your life on your own, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the amazing things that happened when I was in Featherstone prison in Wolverhampton was that one of the guys who was actually in for murder, and he was in a really high category jail in London, and he got relocated to Wolverhampton, and but he really turned his life round, and in prison he'd found his faith and was doing really well. And anyway, one day he says to me, oh miss, can you I think you need to read this psalm. And he'd written it down on a piece of paper. I've still got the piece of paper at home, and he'd written read Psalm 98 and pray for musical angels. And he hands it to me, and I thought, okay. The following week I then got asked to enter a competition to modernize a psalm in a song and to write a piece based on a psalm. And I thought, well, I've just been handed
the psalm.
Yeah. This is my assignment. So the guy Wayne had given me Psalm 98, so I did that, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to pray for musical angels to come through me and write this song, because the competition's next week, And that's when I picked up my Faith guitar. It was in a different tuning. And that was the song that I wrote, where I now couldn't play the chords, but the melody just took hold. And the message of that song, it's Sing a New Song to the Lord, a hymn of praise. But it's about, it's a song of kind of about peace and hope. And that's a song that wouldn't have happened if he'd not given me that piece of paper and asked me to do that. So I like to think that, he's inspired that song, which is a really hopeful song.
Yeah, that's amazing. I noticed, we were talking earlier on, in between you recording your songs with us, Deb, and we were talking about a little bit about like faith and good and evil and right and wrong and stuff like that. And, it sounds like, that was quite like a potent experience you had there with that prisoner, and him giving you, inspiring you about the psalm and everything. Like, has like faith always been very important to you, like all through your life, or did you sort of have an epiphany at some stage and then it came to you?
Yeah, I think that this latest album really shows that my faith journey has grown, because a lot of my music now is inspired by psalms or scripture, and I think my faith was sort of intensified around, actually, since I moved to Ludlow. And I started going to church again. And I think during lockdown as well, I did an Alpha course during lockdown. So
what's that exactly?
So Alpha, it's something that was kind of introduced by a preacher called Nicky Gumbel, and it's a big forum all over the world where you don't have to be a Christian to do it. In fact, it's about asking questions about faith, and it's sort of like about the mystery of faith, and you get to just have discussions with people, and you go through the Bible to talk through the stories, and it helps to answer questions,
unpack and understand it a little bit.
Yeah, because
that's
it's a
something
book of
I've
riddles,
always struggled with, like trying to read scripture and stuff. It's like it's never just clicked with me. Like to understand what it's actually talking about and stuff, and try to watch some videos. Like Jordan Peterson goes through like the deeper stories of the Bible and stuff like that, but it's hard to but I know it inspires so many people and opens them up to like faith and stuff like that. But so that sounds like an interesting...
It is. It's really good, and it makes it much easier to understand the parables, and it's really poetic, really beautiful stories. And I think since then I was kind of felt called to be confirmed. So I was confirmed.
What does that mean?
Hereford.
What does that mean?
I think, well, for me personally, I think it just meant it was... that I felt secure in my faith. I think the prison work for me was like church. I think the catalyst for me, because I've always been spiritual, and I perhaps researched about Buddhism, and I felt spiritual, but I never put a label on it.
So you wouldn't have said when you were younger growing up that you were like a Christian?
No, even though my grandparents were, and my grandparents were involved in the church, and I was very close with them, and I'm sure they influenced me, but we never really talked about faith. But then I think when I gave up my job and started to be a songwriter, that's when I was on this kind of spiritual quest, and I'd come to Glastonbury and, just explore different faiths. And it wasn't until I went to the women's prison that I then realised that this work I was being called to do had a sort of mission focus to it. And also I would get work, working with people with dementia, singing for people in care homes. I started to work in Africa, in Uganda, in a bush village with women and children in extreme poverty. And I felt like my music was being called to difficult places. And I don't think that was a coincidence, that my music was leading me in a way that I couldn't quite understand, but I was just going with it. And then I realised that something was changing in my life. And I was actually given this cross that I'm wearing by an auntie who recently passed away. And she lived outside, just 5 minutes away from this women's prison, and I hadn't connected with her for years, but because this prison was so near, I dropped by, and she was the one that said to me, because I was really upset of having visited, I'd not worked in the prison, but it was a prison near Bristol, and the experience of being shown round it I found quite disturbing, because it was quite an old Victorian jail, and I felt quite affected by that. And I tried to explain to her, I was like a bit teary. I mean, I hadn't seen her. Was it
because of the conditions of the women, or what was it that affected you?
Just the noises, the women in distress. It was a dark place. And
talking about energy, obviously with like the guitars earlier, I mean, talking about a place holding energy, somewhere like that is going to hold an insane amount of energy.
It was just,
and
it
like
was
a lot
harrowing.
of it dark, a lot of it started dark. Yeah,
it was quite disturbing, and I felt so sad, and I couldn't articulate what I was feeling. And I went to my auntie Valerie, knocked on the door. I hadn't really met her as an adult.
Really? So you hadn't seen her since you were a child?
I hadn't seen her since I was a child, and I tried to explain what I'd witnessed, and she just said, "There, but for the grace of God go I." She was the one that told me that phrase from the Bible, and I ended up not leaving her house until the following morning, because we talked all night about that experience. And I said to her, "Oh, but I'm not a Christian." And she said, "Oh, yes, you are," she said. I was like, "Oh, am I now?"
Sold.
And her daughter, her name was Deborah, and she died young. She died of leukemia young, and she lived 16 years longer than doctors predicted her to live. Her name's Deborah Rickard, and actually I was named after her, Deborah. So she gave me her cross to wear, nice. Which was so precious, and it is like really precious to me. And strangely enough, the illustration on my album cover is Deborah with a sword. Because she was a warrior and she battled through and lived a lot longer than doctors predicted. But Valerie really helped me understand that what I was doing seemed to be like it was God's work. And
like fate.
Yeah, or just, I'm not sure about fate, but just learning to discern when God is calling you to do something and following that call. And I think she made me understand about purpose. And I think often the things that we want, maybe in the music industry as well, like you want to get a hit record, or you want to get that festival, or it's very much about, success and really my music was going in a different direction. It was going to jails, it was going to
where it was needed.
Where it was going was where it was needed.
Yeah.
She really encouraged me and just made me understand more about where the direction of my life. And then when you pray more, the more that you pray, the more life seems to align and fall into place. And I think I was my relationship with God for me really strengthened and during I think maybe the last sort of 5 years or something. And I mean, I don't necessarily go to church every Sunday. I don't always like to go to church, but I know if I go, I always feel very nourished by it, and feel that the messages are very poignant. And my best friend in New York, she's a Christian, and you find yourself sometimes in circles with people that really help you and encourage you on that path as well, because sometimes it can be quite difficult to talk about faith, because people might not understand it necessarily, especially if they haven't had that experience yourself. You can only talk from a point of view of your experience. Like, I'm not saying everyone should believe what I believe, but I know what I have experienced, and I know when God has helped me. I know when God's been there for me, and I know when God's intervened.
Really?
Oh yeah, like I know that, and I know when God's talking to me, and that's something very personal, and it's a relationship that I believe anyone can build up through prayer.
Like it doesn't have to just be at a church. It's like your connection comes from inside that, and
a relationship.
You've got to build that within your prayer or your connection to whatever it is, the higher power that you believe in. It comes from inside yourself.
How important is like prayer to you? You said obviously that it's become more important to you, but how often do you do that, and how crucial do you think that is to you?
I pray every day.
Really?
And in the mornings, what I find is a really good start to the day is I use this prayer app, and it has it's just 10 minutes where different speakers will like read an extract of the Bible, or it'd be a story or something inspirational, and I find that combined with my coffee in the morning sets me up for the day. Sometimes I pray when I'm walking as well, like prayer walks are really good. And if I take the time, sometimes life gets so busy that you perhaps don't take that time to pray, but I notice it when I haven't.
You just feel like, in what way exactly? Just,
I think that life flows so much better. I feel more peaceful, I feel more connected, also, people talk about coincidences, but I don't necessarily believe in coincidences. I think they're God incidences, and it's no coincidence that when you don't pray, coincidences don't happen, and when you do pray, more coincidences do happen.
So you think it's very important then in that regard? Yeah.
I just think it's a real thing. I mean, prayers get answered. Very specific prayers get answered, and maybe they don't get answered in the way that you think they're
like a straightforward way.
Yeah, it's not always straightforward, and sometimes they take time.
Yeah, it might take years.
When you say about that personal relationship as well, I think that's almost like the only way to cultivate it.
I agree.
Is through that direct communication, like, you know, it's like your direct line.
Yeah,
it is a direct line. So I don't know how it works. Like sometimes it blows my mind. I'm
but that's it. Once you start seeing the like, because I believe that as well. Like that, you think they're coincidences, but it's like, I don't think it is, you know. It's
sometimes it's like a feeling where it's so strong that you know that it's beyond yourself, because there's something miraculous about it, against the odds, and you just have a knowing that is something that you haven't orchestrated. And
even like from a different perspective, like I went over to Peru and like took part in the ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff, but it always blew my mind that the trajectory of those ceremonies, like over a 5-day period, there would be this arc throughout them all, and what would happen on the last ceremony, like it couldn't have happened on the first one, and it was like it was almost like orchestrated by something that was high, like a higher power or something. And that's what I found, like it knew what I needed and it gave me it on that arc. It didn't give me the last one on the first day. Like if that happened, it would have just blown my I wouldn't have been able to handle it or something, you know. So that's kind of been some direct experiences for me where I've thought, or something wide is at play here,
like a higher power. And I think when you can let go of that control and know that there is some other force in your life, it can help you to take a step back in trying to control every element of your life. A bit like how we were talking about earlier. You know, last time Drew was here, he got his tire went, and you know, it's
when
like
someone's
you
waiting in the
can't,
studio.
and it helps you. I mean, if you just think, well, and sometimes there are blessings in adversity too. So I think it helps you just realize that even if things like appear to be bad, sometimes
you haven't
they're
seen
working
the outcome.
for you.
You haven't seen the alternative.
It's all relevant.
Maybe there was a truck coming out of a lay-by or something. Like if that didn't happen, you know.
You never really know, and also it's always relative, and also we were talking earlier on about like tests as well, about being, you know, some days are testing and other days are not, and I think unfortunately something about human nature is we're more likely to remember the bad than the good, so we're more likely to remember a bad day than a good day, but it's just a fact of human life as well. And I mean, call it like, you know, the law of probability, whatever you want to call it, but you know, some days everything can go right from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and other days it can be the complete opposite, and most days are somewhere in the middle. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, it's when you're having those really bad days, you almost think like, I'm being cursed, like why me, I'm trying to be a good person, and that. But it's like look, it's just, today's been a bit testing, but treat it like that and try and pass the test, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's like, try and pass this test, you know, take it with good grace and everything.
What's the lesson?
Exactly. And try and tackle it with good grace, and try and almost, if you treat it like a test that you like are trying to pass, okay, take a deep breath, remember your patience, count your blessings, you know, like.
And when you say count your blessings as well, like that's been a powerful one for me, like thinking about prayer and stuff. Like I hearing about how powerful gratitude is, and that gratitude can actually be a prayer, and I'm like, that's mad to me but I've done it, say when I'm walking Rupert in the morning, and I walk around and I'll look around me, and those moments where you can kind of just step away from your life a bit and just kind of experience what's around you, and like the beauty of it, and like walking up on Whitcliffe and I see like Ludlow and Rupert's running around and I'm walking across the hill and that, and I get to say, thank you for like this experience right now, this life and stuff. And it's like that sets my day on a different trajectory. So the power of gratitude or look
and
or
positivity
and positivity can help you go on a different kind of trajectory. And
also there are things like that. It kind of is biblical in a way, because in the Bible there are many times where it says to not complain, because if you complain, then you're not being grateful.
It's true. Whatever you're complaining about is true.
Yes.
I know. I don't want to ironically complain about this, but one of the things I actually really don't. I do struggle to be around people that complain all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it sort of like niggles at you.
Yeah.
It just sort of bothers you. Do you know what I mean? It's
not going anywhere positive.
It's not who we are truly. Yeah. So these things, they irritate for a reason. And also, like you were saying about the tests and the trials, it's like when you believe, when you do have a faith and you believe in God, you don't believe that God is going to give you a trouble-free life. You just believe that God's going to be with you through the trials and through the troubles. And then having that presence, one, you never feel alone, but also you can pray for things like patience. You can pray for things like to have courage or to have confidence or to have strength. So you can pray for certain attributes or to help you rather than praying for things. Some people will to see, so if you believe in God, you just it's a bit like a kind of slot machine or something, but it's not as easy as that. I mean, but God can give you provision, and you can there've been times before when I've prayed for very specific things, and God will deliver, and God will answer and help me in times, maybe in different ways. But I think it's also a really important thing to remember that you can pray for certain characteristics. That's what I find really inspiring, and also that's the breakthrough for me, is there when I think, oh my gosh, like I feel changed by
pray for characteristics within yourself. So and you think, oh my God, this is like a new me. I didn't realize I could be so patient, or I could be so peaceful, I could be so loving. But we all need to, there's times where we might not be as kind as we could be, or and that's where I think the Bible, where Jesus teaches extreme kindness, extreme forgiveness, all of the, it's radical. It's actually a really radical faith. Just being that kind is radical.
And selfless. But I mean, on a day-to-day basis, we're human, so we have these frailties. We are imperfect, and we will never be perfect. We are made this way. But if you follow the example of Jesus, you can be more loving, you can be more generous, you can be better, and that's what I think the challenge is. That's the test, that's the exam on a daily basis. And you feel better about it if you've been a better person. But for some reason we often don't choose to be. We retreat back into these selfish ways. I
think it's like as we were saying earlier on before we started doing the show as well. Also, it's like understand that, of course, as you said, we're only humans, we're not going to be perfect all the time, but I think like owning mistakes and things like that, owning mistakes and not being afraid to say sorry as well. I think that's like so important.
And hard. It's a really hard thing to do, say sorry and to admit you've done wrong, and that takes a lot of courage
and self-awareness as well. And sometimes it's just hard to be self-aware. Do you know what I mean? It's much more harder to, because you can't step out.
Else.
You can't step outside of yourself and view you the same way that you view other people.
Psychedelics.
Or psychotherapy.
But do you know what I mean? So I feel like with other people, you're seeing it in real time, where sometimes you need to take a step back and evaluate yourself. Sometimes that requires a bit more of like a step back to do that.
Psychedelics.
When you're having that self. But I don't think you need psychedelics to do that. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just more like maybe like a bit of patience, a bit of like self-awareness, perspective.
Self-awareness is a practice, I think. It's not just something that it's something you got to cultivate rather than it just being something that comes naturally.
And being honest with yourself as well, because I think like some people are almost like they're lying to themselves. Like be honest with yourself. Did you really do what was best in that moment? Did you really do the right thing in that moment? Not just for you, but the right thing, objectively the right thing, not the right thing for you. What was easiest, the right thing, you know, like be really honest about that.
That's like almost challenging your ego or something, I suppose, or like this idea that you have of yourself, or like
it's humility as well, isn't it? It's learning humility and sometimes not having to be the great I am. And we're in a society which promotes wealth, which promotes power, which promotes success, and actually the Bible promotes everything that's opposite. It's saying humility, mildness, meekness, grace,
and things like family and
so
that as well, like, because we've talked about it, like Calum on the pod before, like where you don't realize, and I saw it's making me think of something Jordan Peterson said the other day, like you won't like true responsibility only comes when someone comes before you, but that doesn't happen very much. But with a child, it does. It doesn't matter what relationship you're in or anything like that. Yeah. Like that responsibility, and that is almost a gift from God, I think. Or from Creator.
That's like we were talking about tests. That's like almost like the ultimate test.
Yeah, and it does become more important than you. Or if it doesn't, then it shows something about you as a person, you know, which isn't very nice. If it can't, you know?
I know this is like, I feel like on a very simple level, I feel like if when I die, my daughter thinks really, really highly of me, then I've passed a massive test. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I think, you know, and that's on you. That's on you as the parent, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know,
and that's what makes you kind of look objectively sometimes, because it's like because it matters. You know, a lot of the times it doesn't. It's feel, for me anyway, it didn't feel like it mattered as much. But then when something like that happens, it matters a lot more. You know,
being held to account.
And you only get one chance as well with something like that as well. Do you know what I mean? You can't really go back and do it again. A lot of things in life you might get a chance to do it again. You know, whereas like you only get one chance for that. So
I remember watching. It was funny you said something earlier about like redemption as well, Deb. Like in prisons and stuff. Like something just came in my head the other day, and I was watching a movie, and do you know when something really gets you, like redemption has to be a part of the story sometimes for me to like, for it to like it be like a really important part of the human experience, or like movies and stuff like that. There's always got to be a good redemption in it. I just
that's why I'll always be a defender of Boromir. In the Lord of the Rings, because I've heard some people say that. Sorry to just make this like a nerd fest all of a sudden.
No, it's true.
But do you know what I'm on about in the first Lord of the Rings movie or the book?
I've seen it, but I don't.
Right. So, long story short, there's a character called Boromir. He sort of the One Ring is super evil, and it sort of like it tempts everybody, and there's hardly anybody. You know, it's so full of evil and malice. Sauron, which is essentially like, I guess, like the devil of the story. J.R.R. Tolkien was a deeply Catholic man, and he took a lot of influence from his own religion as well as influences from the First World War, which he served in, and he used a lot of his religion in writing Lord of the Rings. A lot of it is basically good versus evil. But the One Ring, Sauron poured a lot of his malice and evil into it, and
it draws you to it.
Yeah, it pulls out all the worst aspects of humanity, of mankind. And this one character, Boromir, he sort of temporarily falls to the power and the seduction of the ring, and he tries to take it from Frodo, the ring bearer, who is one of the only people on the planet that seems to be able to carry it, who's pure enough to carry it without getting too corrupted. He gets a bit corrupted, but not too corrupted. And basically, and then he redeems himself. He realizes what he's done, and he basically dies defending the hobbits. And I've heard some people say that they think Boromir is like a bad character and sort of like serves him right, stuff like that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hear that, because we all have moments of weakness. Boromir had a moment of weakness, and he redeemed himself. That is a story of redemption, and it's a story of the ultimate redemption, because he gave his life.
Because he knew he did
to redeem.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He gave
it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and he had such a crisis of conscience, and it bothered him so much, and then he came full circle when he died. Do you know what I mean? He gave his life, the ultimate sacrifice. He died to save these two little, essentially lads who were completely defenseless without him. And I think that's a real beauty in that, and I feel like
Aragorn sees that
that's
as
a very human story.
Yeah, it is. And also the Bible is full of stories like that. I mean, Moses committed murder, and then he was used by God to part the Red Sea. So it's I think that we don't have to be perfect. It's like almost God uses our flaws to you puts us to purpose and puts us to task. And I think in everyone's, I watched the film Midnight Express last night. I think I mentioned that, but the guy who was put in a Turkish jail, he did a really foolish thing, to try to smuggle, in possession of drugs, but then his sentence got changed from possession to smuggling. But then it was just this like story of not just redemption, but this real plea he did in the courts for mercy, because they changed his sentence from a few years to life.
Wow. Just
they wanted to make it. They
right?
wanted to make an example of him. But yeah, these are like really strong themes, aren't they? Which make it into films like Lord of the Rings. Film, sort of stories of redemption, stories of mercy, stories of second chances, transformation, I think that's why they're so universal and why they're so popular as well.
Yes. Yeah, and also I feel like it's like with that sort of like judgment thing as well, it's like understanding where people have come from, their backstory as well. Because that can really affect why somebody's done something. Like, it's easy to judge somebody in the moment, like they've done this thing, but like you don't know somebody's backstory and the reasons why in their mind might have led them to make that bad decision. Without like harping on too much about Lord of the Rings. Like the whole almost like story with him is that
save Gondor.
It's like, well, yeah, and also it's like, so Gondor in the novels, it shares a border with Mordor. So Boromir spent his whole entire life essentially keeping back the forces of evil from all the elves and the dwarves and the hobbits and the men that and most of the people, they've only really starting to experience war on a regular basis now.
We got this every week.
Whereas Boromir, it's like he's desperate, and he sees it as like, if he might have this powerful object, he might be able to finally save his people that have been suffering trials and tribulations and grief and strife all his life. So it's like, I think that's a big thing as well. But I think that's deliberately in there, deliberately in there as a lesson.
Grey area,
and it's for something for you as the reader or the watcher to realise yourself. Like why was he corrupted compared to one of the other characters? Well, it's all right for Samwise Gamgee, who just grew up smoking pipeweed in the Shire. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't had a hard life. Do you know what I mean? Boromir's life has been a constant trial of trials and tribulations. So I think it's the onus is on you, rather than judging that Boromir as a character, to maybe realise why he fell like he did before redeeming himself. Which I think as a backstory and context, I think is very important. No, I think that's really fascinating though. Like your faith, Deb, and how important it is to you. Interestingly, I used to pray when I was a little kid, like not even necessarily I didn't really know who I was praying to. I just used to pray, and I'm not saying I'm not now. I was always very big on faith. I mean, I kind of am now, but as I said, as we were talking about earlier on, it's not necessarily faith necessarily in a deity. It's like faith in like good. Do you know what I mean? It's like faith in like good, and that like if you're like true to a purpose and true to task, and like believing very much in like good versus evil, and checking yourself to make sure you're on that good path, and I guess I might be wrong in this, but I guess my feeling is if there are higher beings, then when I die, if I do remain true to purpose and true to like good, then do you know what I mean? Then I've done my job, and whatever or whoever, like to me, it doesn't matter the name you want to put on it. Yeah. To me, it's like that. You're marching up the right hill. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But I think what's interesting about that is that there's and maybe it's something that you would find useful bringing into a forum like Alpha, because that's the starting point, is this sort of, the belief in good. But what is the real story of existence? And when you start researching like the history of the Bible as well, like what is it that makes that innate feeling in you just want to do good? But when you can kind of put it in context with actually, so there isn't that vagueness of I'm not sure what it is, or I'm praying but I don't know who I'm praying to, that for me is when you start the relationship. When you start the relation, and it even feels strange for me saying it now, but a relationship with Jesus, but I know that that's real, because I know that when I pray, there is a response to that. So I think it's about taking it that next stage. It's just taking it one step further, so that you do know who you're praying to. It's like I have such a strong sense of the Lord.
But why do you think that? Why do you think that that's such an important part of it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like putting a name on it. Like, and you know, because I'm generally interested in your perspective. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, I think if you can. The hard part is, to me, often is being able to differentiate between right and wrong and good and evil. But if you feel like you have a very clear sense of that in your mind, like, why is it so important to you to put a name on that and to know?
Really. I mean, I actually find it quite difficult labeling it,
okay,
because I feel like it's me saying, you know, I don't want to say this is what I say is right. But I think, again, from experience, I've had direct experiences, like, you know, to do with the cross, and to do with, you know, my experiences, and I can't always think of examples right now, but they are linked to the story in the Bible. They are linked to Jesus. They're very strongly linked to it. So my faith has increased, the Bible for me holds truth. And often a passage will come to me, a psalm will come to me, or get given to me, but the Bible is what holds the truth. So now I do believe in Jesus, I believe in God, and I believe in, you know, Christmas and Easter are very different for me now as a Christian, and me wearing my cross. You know, there is a reference for it now. It's not like me when I was young. I used to pray but never really understood who I was praying to. But now, because I've studied the Bible, and you know, so one time, and it was Easter, I think it was Good Friday, somebody actually just came and put a nail into the palm of my hand, like, and it just sort of felt really symbolic at that moment, and I just thought, it's Good Friday, you know, it's not just a day for hot cross buns. You know? I don't know, certain symbolic things come to me. Very interesting. I just don't know, you know, there's so many different religions, and I think, you know, different ones have their pros and their cons. I think objectively speaking, some are better than others. I don't know if better is the right word, but I think it's just the most simple and to the point word to use in this instance. I'm not sure if, for me, knowing what I know about all religions, if I fit into any one. Do you know what I mean? Like, just personally to me. You know, I'm very, very interested in history. So obviously I know the history of the British Isles and loosely what people believed before Christianity was brought here. I think that's interesting. I think Christianity is very interesting too. I think all religions are interesting, regardless of, you know, what I necessarily think about them beyond that. But I couldn't put myself in one group, you know. But, you know, but as I said, I one thing I very much can see, as I said, big fan of history, I can see how Christianity has shaped Europe and the West since it was introduced, and I think in large part that has been positive. Obviously, I think what a lot of what we would see is like traditional family values, which I think for the most part are very good, whether it's like, you know, loving thy neighbor, you know, a lot of what we've already talked about, you know, trying to just do what is right, do what is good, being selfless, being honest. Obviously, a lot of these things are taught in Christianity, and that can obviously only have a positive benefit.
And it's like a reference point for people sometimes, isn't it? I suppose, yeah. Yeah,
and I think that a lot of people in countries like ours can sometimes take it for granted, but I think a lot of what is good of our societies, whether we want to admit it or not, is actually based in our Christian backgrounds. And one of the reasons why certain countries in the world might be more brutal, might have much higher examples of, you know, whether it's like murder, you know, any type of like violent assault, or, you know, or prejudice or anything, that could be because they don't have such a strong, stable background in Christianity, for example. So I do think that it does hold a lot of value. It's just it's very interesting, but I love your story and how it's shaped you, and I think it's really beautiful how you're using that in your music now. That beautiful song that you played with Drew at the end of the set we just recorded with you, I could really tell that was like a really personal connection, with you and God and everything, and I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I think that it's and that's that kind of thing you can't force. So I think when the inspiration comes through Psalms, it just is what it is. It's not like I really set out to be inspired by the Psalms, but there seems to be 3 Psalm songs on the album, and it's kind of easier not. I mean, it would be easier for me to write some pop songs, and hope maybe that would get a wider listenership. So it's actually more challenging to put a song with any kind of religious connotation out there, but you can only do what feels true to you. And there is something about that, especially that one, Under the Feathers of Your Wings, I think, because it was the most recent song that I wrote. But it just seems to want to be in the world, and sometimes I think as songwriters we are kind of vessels for a message to come through, and that one particularly, Psalm 91, is kind of about spiritual warfare, a bit like you talking about Lord of the Rings. It is about kind of good versus evil, and that sometimes the darkness does try and overcome the light, and we're in a particularly challenging time now with war, conflict, and it's not something that we can ignore. And like I said, having faith doesn't mean that life is all rosy, and it also doesn't mean that being a Christian means that you're a goody-goody. I mean, this is one thing that you get labelled. These Christians, they think that they're perfect and they do everything right. Well, no, it's actually the opposite. It's the opposite. You recognise that you're flawed, and you have to learn humility. And
I definitely think you can see clear examples of that nowadays as well. I mean, we were talking earlier on about how people that have completely rejected any sense of higher purpose, of higher being or religion, and almost scoff at religion, it's those people that tend to go down the more immoral paths, the more self-destructive paths, the more destructive in general paths, and maybe they don't even realize the damage that's been done until too late in a lot of instances, which can be so damaging to them and those around them.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's that process of self-awareness, and that's what I witnessed through the music in the jail, was that maybe some of these songs were actually being written as ways of saying sorry to their family because of the shame of being in prison. There's actually a song I went in at Christmas time. I went back to write some Christmas songs, and actually I think one of them was called I can't remember, it's something Too Many Sorries, but a lot of these songs were written as apologies, and I think that's tied in with the faith as well, isn't it? Like you say, it's the hardest thing to admit you're wrong, to say you're sorry. That takes a lot of humility, a lot of courage, and if songwriting can help you do that, and then that I think was received by family members, or maybe even family members of the people that were hurt because of the crimes, then also the prison want to encourage that, because you have to be careful when working in prisons that you're not seen to be giving them a really good time, because then people would say, they've done this to my family member, they should be punished, they should be. But if there's some level of repentance, it's
balancing that.
It is, and so, like you say, self-awareness. So I think songs can be healing in that sense.
Yeah, definitely, and help you grow as a person. Before we finish, because we're going to play the set you recorded with us in a minute, but give us a little bit of a brief background on, all the songs that you did record with us in order, if that's okay, Deb. Starting from the first one, tell us just a little bit of the song so that when we're listening to them with the listeners in a minute, we can have a bit of a backstory on them. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. So I think I did Anam Cara, which was the first song.
Yeah.
And that's a Gaelic phrase for soul friend, which was written by an Irish poet that I really like called John Donahue, and I love that book. And I found the book in Glasgow Cathedral, and I thought it would make a lovely song title. And the book Anam Cara is kind of like a book about Celtic spirituality, and I remember reading it and really changed my life as well. Like, it was before I was perhaps on this journey as a Christian, but it was something that really spoke to me at that time in my life. And the song I wrote just before lockdown and recorded it a couple of weeks before lockdown, where I was meant to do a full album but ended up just doing a couple of songs. And then I managed to make the music video when we were allowed out in that period, and Drew made the video with me in Cardingmill Valley.
Our other friend Josh took some photos for you, didn't he?
And Josh took some amazing pictures in Avebury, so I did half of it in Avebury at the Stone Circle, and then half of it in the Shropshire Hills. So that's Anam Cara, and that's something that I really find people relate to, and I just always like to start my set with that because it sets me up and it puts me in a nice sort of peaceful state. So that's Anam Cara. And then I did Living Waters, which was the song about the River Team. And it's a song which just talks about the lovely nature in Shropshire. And that's on the album as the last track. And I
the upcoming album, Atlas.
Yeah, the new album that's coming out, and it's a cappella version, and contains some words by the poet A.E. Houseman, which I think we spoke about earlier in the podcast. So that's Living Waters, and then Under the Feathers of Your Wings is inspired by Psalm 91.
Is that on the upcoming album as well?
And that's on the upcoming album, which Drew plays on, and we recorded in a studio in Shropshire called Chapel Lawn, and Drew and I did a kind of live take really of it, and that's the most recent song that I've recorded and written as well. So I'm excited about sharing that because people haven't heard that, because on the album there are a few songs that were released over the years, because it's taken me 5 years to complete the album as a whole. I've released the singles with videos, using the resources that I've had to maybe go into a studio and then make the video, but now it's all come together, and Under the Feathers of Your Wings is one of the songs that hasn't been released, so amazing. It's nice to have played it for you. And
it was lovely listening to it. It was honestly, the whole set was just like heavenly. It just sounded so beautiful and so relaxing, so good for the soul. So just for everyone listening, so the album's coming out in November. Is there like a set date in November, or is that just the 1st of November? Or
basically the artwork is submitted at the moment to the manufacturers, and also I've just had my masters. The album's mastered, and just need to get a date. So it'll be some point in November, you think, but you don't know exactly when yet. I don't know when. Okay, well, keep your eyes and ears peeled for Deb's upcoming album Atlas, which is going to come out some point in November. We're about to play you the 4 songs that Deb's just recorded with us. You're in for a treat. They sound amazing, and if you want to watch the performance as well, which I very much recommend you do, you can also find it on YouTube. Just type in Pandora's Box Podcast and we will post it on our page. Thanks very much everyone for listening as always, and check out Deb's awesome set she just did with us now. Thank you, Deb, so much for coming in, recording the set with us today, and for coming on the show as well. Thanks for having me. It's so cool. I love it here, and I want to come to do a gig because it's just such a nice space to play, and the sound is so good too. Well, anytime you want to come back in future, just let us know. We'll sort it out. Thank you. And we need to sort out a little gig, like you said, as well. Coffee and this lovely Moroccan. So very happy with that. Pleasure is all ours. Thanks so much, Deb. Cheers. Cheers, guys.